You know I have to look at this at least for a second, Robert. Just stop it. Let me look at it. Sack the queen. Do you not like my position here? Come on.
Right, so hold that thought. I'm going to show you the moves that lead up to the position where we see a queen sack on the board, and Danny called it, so he just freaks out, loses his, okay, I won't swear, and that's the picture you just saw on screen, and we're going to see the reaction in a moment. Now, this game was played between Wang with white and Alexander Grischuk with black. It was part of the Candidates Tournament 2020-2021. Now, this was played in 21 when the tournament got picked up again after COVID. So let's see these first few moves. Wang Hao kicks off with e4, Grischuk e6, the French defence, and after d4, d5, knight c3 is played, and it invites the razor sharp winnower variation, but not played in this game. Grischuk goes knight f6, the classical, and Wang Hao decides to advance his pawn, kicks back the knight, and now f4 is a very common starting move, but we see this knight drop back instead. Different move order, with the idea being that when black strikes at the centre, you support with the c-pawn, you've cleared the knight out of the way. Grischuk develops this knight, now f4, the classic move, setting up that pawn structure, bishop e7, knight f3, and now the other idea for black to try and undermine this big white centre, pawn to f6, immediately played by Grischuk. Now bishop e3 develops, castles from black, and pawn to g3, another pawn move, but with the idea of developing that bishop later, getting the king castled. And now queen b6 puts further pressure on the dark squares, especially that pawn on b2. So queen d2 develops and defends, and now here, look at Grischuk's clock. He's got an hour 30, he plays c takes on d4 and spends 70 minutes, an hour and 10, just to play that move. I mean, he is renowned for being an absolute time trouble addict. And this is why, you know, decisions like this, it's just insane use of his time. Now, after this one, we don't see the pawn recaptures. This is worth a quick note, for the reason being that then black can take here. You can't take with the f-pawn or you lose your knight here, it's unprotected. So taking here is forced, but then there's this bishop c5 move. And it's a bit of a dream position for the French player because you've cleared these central pawns. You know, one day the pawn might run, but all of these pieces are now just kind of flooding into the game. The play is in the centre, and actually the black king is looking safer than the white king. So, not the way to go, instead the knight recaptures. And now knight c5 was played, good move, looking to hop into that e4 square. Now Wang captures on f6, and Grischuk recaptures with the bishop, and we see knight b3. So pressure on this knight with two pieces. You could go bishop e7 here to defend it, but Grischuk finds a very tactical response, knight e4. So he leaves his queen hanging, but counterattacks on this one. Now just to briefly show you what would happen if white captures, this is playable, but it gets very complex, because you can nudge back the bishop and attack this rook. Black's best is to take this one here, give the exchange, but then there's knight e3, and you're threatening knight c2 check, plus this one's still attacked. Best for white is king f2, counter-attacking the knight, but then there's knight g4 check, king f3, continuing the counter-attack, and there's so many moves for black here which gives a kind of rough equality. There's e5, there's these kind of crazy moves with check, or this one with check, then taking the bishop, so much to calculate. And so here I can understand why, going back here, Wang just wanted to keep a lid on things, not give the queen. He goes queen d3, forces Grischuk to move, and then he goes bishop g2, preparing to castle and pressuring Grischuk's knight. So he drops that one back to d6, and now good anticipation of the knight c4 jump. We see the bishop drop back to f2, so that after knight c4 attacking pawn, now the queen can defend and your bishop's not hanging on e3. And now I love the manoeuvre that Grischuk finds here with just 3 minutes on his clock. So he drops this knight back, underdeveloping it, but with an idea in mind, because after castles, he now breaks open the position in a really sharp way. Knight f5 was a good move, but he goes pawn e5, one of the sharpest ways, because after captures, this is the idea that he now has in mind. He goes bishop to f5, counter-attacking this white queen here, preventing white from taking this bishop? Or does he? Well, this is where Danny Rensch predicts what might happen, because Wang takes on f6 and then elicits this reaction from Danny Rensch.
Oh my god, he just took on f6.
No way.
Oh, yes. Yes.
You were just throwing it out there.
I'm freaking out. Yes. This is how chess is played, ladies and gentlemen.
Just an absolute classic reaction. But the drama is not over, because look at Grischuk's clock. 1 minute, 2 seconds. So he takes on c2. The queen is given. Pawn captures on e7. And now we don't see the queen immediately recapturing, or you run into this tactic. Check. And your knight drops here. So instead, the rook sidesteps, prepares to recapture. And after knight f4, well, now we see knight b6 to cover this d5 pawn. You know, you don't want the knight to take there and fork your rook and queen if you immediately took the pawn. And here Wang now, he just goes slightly wrong. He doesn't have to take this pawn immediately, which is what he does. The computer prefers to just bring another piece into the attack, or bishop d4, just hold off a moment taking the pawn. But okay, he captures, and now it's advantage Grischuk, because you can recapture. Yes, there's a check, the king goes, but after knight d4, attacking this bishop, queen d7, counterattack, very tactical here. We see c4 defending, this bishop drops back, and after knight e6, the pawn is collected. So somewhat the smoke has cleared here, and we've got a position now where the queen is slightly superior to the minor pieces. But can Grischuk hold it together in this severe time pressure? Wang also down on the clock though. Look at his time now. So rook ae1 played, and now Grischuk, he goes wrong. He makes a tactical error in his time trouble. It comes back to haunt him. But just before I show you that one, a quick shout out to AIMCHESS, sponsor of this video. If you want to improve your chess, then sign up free and check out the next 21 seconds as a preview of how awesome AIMCHESS is. Is this you toiling away trying to improve your chess? If so, you need AIMCHESS in your life. They'll take your recent game data from Lichess, chess.com, bring in personalized lessons and skyrocket your rating. Use the link down below, try it for free, and code EPIC at checkout will get you discount if you do want a premium plan. So what did Grischuk play here? Well, he nudged his bishop back to f7. Technically best was bringing the rook across here, and we're going to see why, because now it opens up a tactic for Wang Hao. Can you guess what he played? Can you find the move here for white? So the best move is knight takes on g7. Very nice idea, because if the king captures, well, this is the follow-up. You check, you open up the second rook, and once this one goes, then you capture here. Now, of course, you're double attacking here. You've just won an entire rook, so recapturing forced, and then you can liquidate into this kind of position. Now, yes, white is still an exchange down, but with 2 pawns for that exchange, it should be a material balance. But okay, white still has to be careful. Black has a small advantage here. So that's the idea of the tactic. And that's why Grischuk, he now took on d5 instead. He left the knight where it was. We see captures on e7, queen takes. This knight now retreats, saves itself. The queen goes, and again there's this bishop d4 check idea to open the rook, defend the knight. Very tactical, I know. King g8, and now this one's recaptured. And if anything here, black has to be a bit careful with the d pawn coming and these pieces coordinating really nicely now. h5 from Grischuk gives the king some room in many of the lines. Now pawn d6 kicks on. King h7, knight e7 opens up the rook's attack. The queen sidesteps. They're still so low on time, coming up to time control. And after rook f6 invading, well, here Grischuk brings his rook across, gets in front of that pawn. And now if Wang wanted to keep things really tense, really tactical, he could have played bishop to e5, but he instead drops this bishop back to c3, and it allows Grischuk a shot, which he takes to unravel. He takes on d6. Why is he giving the rook? Well, now he wins back this knight for it, so he's gone rid of the pawn and the dangerous knight. And here, after the rook retreats, well, he gives a check. King g6, a3 now gives a check. And here the players agreed a draw. Why? Well, the black queen is just going to keep checking that white king. You can't escape it, and so it would be perpetual. Awesome fight, even though it led to a draw. I hope you enjoyed this one. To check out another stunning game, then see the video on screen. Thanks very much for watching, and see you soon.